What's happening, everybody? On today's show, is OU ready for the SEC? We will find out sooner or later.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. Today's show, we continue our spring previews discussing the Oklahoma Sooners. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers checking us out each and every day. Find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, again, covering your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them out at nissanusa.com. Welcome in our buddy John Williams. Been a while since we talked with him. And John, covering all things Sooners over there at Locked On Sooners. How are you, man? Thanks for joining us.
Doing great and excited for the official Oklahoma is now in the SEC podcast here with Chris Gordy and Locked On SEC.
Well, we got a little bit of time. It's July 1st. I thought it was funny because ESPN put out their press release the other day on schedules for, the broadcast schedules for all their spring games. And it's still listed. Texas's spring game is going to be on the damn Longhorn Network. And for OU, it listed Sooner Vision, but also ESPN Plus. So I guess we could still watch it there, but there's no SEC Network Plus yet. And the distinction was they're not in the SEC yet. And I'm like, this is stupid. They're recruiting for the SEC. They're preparing for an SEC football season, yet they're both technically Big 12 schools for now. So a little crazy. But let's start there, John. I pose the question: are the Oklahoma Sooners SEC ready, in your opinion?
Well, that's the goal, right? Everybody's trying to get to that point where you're competing with the Georgia, competing with Alabama, and to a little bit maybe lower extent LSU, but you have a lot of work to do. I mean, this is a team that, went 6-7 just 2 years ago with Brent Venables. They rebounded, had a nice 10-win season this last year. We'll find out. I mean, I think that's going to be the question on everybody's mind is, can they go in with the schedule that they have, which is pretty daunting in their first year in the SEC, and can they go in contend for a playoff spot? We're talking over on Locked On Sooners for the floor for Oklahoma needs to be 8 wins. They've got to get to 8 wins this year. I think 9 wins gets them on the cusp of competing for a playoff spot. Anything more than that, I mean, it's gravy. I think the talent is going to be there. It's just adjusting to kind of the new culture, new dynamic, new physicality in the trenches. And that's going to be the area where the biggest question is going to be for a lot of people on the outside looking in. Is Oklahoma prepared along the offensive line, defensive line? Along the offensive line, I mean, they're replacing the 5 guys that started the most games for them from last year. Now, they've done a lot of work in the transfer portal to help rectify that issue. You've got one of the best developing offensive line coaches in college football, in Bill Bedenbaugh, but it's going to be a question until we see it on the field against Tennessee, that first SEC game for the Oklahoma Sooners. On the defensive line, it's going to be similar. You have one guy in the trenches at defensive tackle that played a significant amount of snaps for you last year. You got to figure out an answer to that. Now, they had a great defensive line recruiting class in 2024, but are those guys going to be up to speed enough to be able to contribute year one? Those are kind of the questions we're looking at. But skill position wise, I mean, they've got great talent. 5-star quarterback in Jackson Arnold. They've got a defense that's coming back with a lot of experience in Danny Stutsman, Billy Bowman, Woody Washington, Ethan Downs. It's going to be an experienced group on the defensive side of the ball that's gotten better each season with Brent Venables right now. And we're expecting that defense to continue to improve. Best answer I can give you is we'll see. I think they're trending in that direction, but we're only going to know once they get on the field, and we'll find out.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the offensive line coach, and I saw him down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, and everybody's getting raises because we've had so many changes. I mean, like a guy goes to coach somewhere, he's there 2 weeks, and then another school poaches him. It's been crazy, but paying the offensive line coach over $1 million now. He got a raise. One of the few non-coordinator positions getting paid over $1 million. So we're starting to see that kind of start to trickle down to some of the bigger programs. But talk a little bit about Brent Venables as he heads into year 3. Obviously, year 1 was not good. It was 6-7, 3-6 in the conference, but last year, a big step forward, 10-3 overall, 7-2 in the conference. Where's the Sooner fan base on Venables heading into year 3?
I think everybody's still feeling very optimistic about Brent Venables. I mean, we've seen the improvement. That 6-7 season, it caused a few people to have questions and have doubts, but I think most people were still giving him a bit of grace because of what Lincoln Riley was recruiting to Oklahoma. There was maybe a lack of defensive talent, at least defensive talent that could kind of take you to the next level at Oklahoma. Guys that weren't really going to be able to maybe mesh well with Brent Venables' defense. But, what they've done in the transfer portal in his first 2 years, they've done enough to be able to help get that defense to improve. And what we're seeing on the recruiting trail is, man, Brent Venables and his staff can just flat out recruit. And if there's any question mark about that, it's going to be hard to overlook because, top 10 classes in each of the 3 cycles that he's been the head coach for the Sooners, and it's getting better. And they could potentially have their best recruiting class in the 2025 cycle. So the recruiting is there. We saw a 10-win season last year. Everything is trending in the right direction. I think everybody's feeling very good about where Oklahoma's headed. And we're going to still see defensive improvement because we got David Stone coming, Jaden Jackson coming as part of that 2024 recruiting class that are going to help at defensive tackle, a really, really nice group of defensive linemen joining them as well. So I think everything is heading in the right direction and everybody feels really good about Brent Venables and the program.
Let's get to the big one. 5-star quarterback Jackson Arnold. We know, you had Dylan Gabriel last year. He's on the move already in this ever-changing world of transfer portal, but highly touted kid, 5-star quarterback. We got to see him in the bowl game. There was some good, some bad, but early impressions so far of the 5-star quarterback Jackson Arnold, who figures to be the guy this year.
He's got all the talent in the world. He's got the NFL arm. He's got the NFL size. He's got NFL mobility. And he made some really, really good throws, both in the BYU game where he started in the second half and in the bowl game against Arizona. Yeah, the 4 turnovers, you can't have that from your quarterback, and Jackson Arnold knows that. I think a lot of what we saw in the Alamo Bowl was Jackson Arnold kind of getting up to speed with college defenses and understanding like, oh, okay, I can't make the same throws that I made in high school. Against BYU, they didn't ask him to do a whole lot, but against Arizona, they kind of opened up the playbook and let him run the offense. And I think there was, a lot of good. Obviously the turnovers aren't great, but I think he's going to learn from those things. Again, all the talent in the world. He's got the right mentality. He's not a guy that's going to be very vocal on social media or, the most braggadocious with the media. He's kind of a low-key kid that's going to keep it humble and just go let his work do the work for him as far as people's opinion of him. And I think we're going to see a much better version, a much more consistent version of Jackson Arnold as a starter in his first year with the Oklahoma Sooners, or starting for a first time for the Oklahoma Sooners in 2024. The skill talent is going to be great. The wide receiver depth that they have is going to be some of the best in the country. Between, bringing back Nick Anderson and Angelo Anthony, adding Deion Burks from Purdue in the transfer portal. They got breakout seasons from a guy like Jaden Gibson, who was a 4-star prospect once upon a time. So the skill talent's going to be there for him. The offensive line, I believe, is going to come together. It's going to be really, really good. And so everything's going to set up for a guy that's got NFL talent to go and have a very productive season in 2024.
Yeah, that's everything I've been reading. You lose Drake Stoops, but, so much of that receiving core is back, and that's got to be good for Jackson Arnold to, already be on the same page with a lot of those guys, have a little chemistry brewing, and that's going to help him. Also going to help the run game. Gavin Sawchuk was red hot down the stretch of last season with a bunch of 100-yard rushing games. So good to have him back in the fold as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for Sawchuk and for Javonte Barnes, those were the 2 guys that Oklahoma expected to be the lead guys straight away in 2023, but both were dealing with offseason injuries. And so it took them a while, and Javonte Barnes really never got back in 2023, but it took a while for Gavin Sawchuk to get fully back. And then once he did, he hit the ground running and he was fantastic. And a lot of what most people considered were offensive line woes all kind of seemed to rectify themselves whenever Gavin Sawchuk got back into the game. He showed big time potential as a playmaker, just creating big runs, seemingly at will at times, and just showing good patience and good vision. So I think he's going to be another guy that is going to be fun to watch if he can stay healthy all off season long and then really hit the ground running. I think he's going to have a chance to have a very productive year this coming up season.
All right, we touched on the OU offense. Coming up next, we're going to touch on the defense. How ready are they for the SEC? We'll talk about that with John Williams coming up in just a sec. But first, I want to remind you guys this episode is presented to you by friends over at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. We've been talking about the 2024 Nissan Rogue, perfect for city drives and great escapes. Their class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and the Google Play Store are all built into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system right there in your dashboard. The 2024 Rogue, the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. Or if you're looking at the 2024 Nissan Armada, it will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. Picture a rugged 4x4 that could seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style. Tow bigger and explore further in the 2024 Armada. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Go shop NissanUSA.com. That's NissanUSA.com. Continue on with our buddy John Williams, host of Locked On Sooners. And John, we talked about Oklahoma coming into the SEC and expectations for the offense. Let's talk a little bit about defense because they make some additions this offseason. Obviously, Brent Venables, the defense is his specialty, but how big is it getting Zach Alley to come in and be the co-DC and linebackers coach?
So I think what it does for Brent Venables is it just frees him up to go be the head coach, to be the CEO, to continue to improve managing the football game, because that was an area that was a struggle in 2022. It got better in 2023, but there were still some times where, okay, we need your head coach to be fully engaged to everything that's going on, not just with the defense. And so I think this does free him up. Zach Alley is just a young, hot, up and coming coordinator, somebody who's got a lot of experience with Brent Venables and Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis from their time all at Clemson. And so he's going to be somebody that comes in and speaks the same language. You know, there's going to maybe be a few differences here and there, but everybody talks about him being a mini Brent Venables, and he's had success. You know, the success he had at Jacksonville State, you know, they'd moved up from the FCS to FBS and they were pretty good in just a couple years that they were there. So he showed the ability to develop a defense, to build a program. And I think that's going to be very instrumental in helping Oklahoma take that next step, is having somebody that's going to be on Brent Venables' same page and be able to kind of speak the same language, have the same expectations, even the same intensity, and not suffer that drop off if Brent Venables, you know, steps away because he's got to go handle something with the offense or go make sure we're managing the time well over here. It allows Brent Venables to be more freed up and be more the CEO head coach, which, you know, he wants to have his hands on the defense because that's what he is. He's a defensive guy. He's been so for 30 plus years at the collegiate level. And so he's going to have, you know, his hands a little bit in it, but I think on game day, this just frees him up a little bit more. And I think it also frees him up in recruiting where he can focus more broadly. He doesn't have to focus on, okay, I got to go be in that 5-star defensive, you know, line conversation every single time. No, he can trust Zach Alley is going to have that same passion, same drive, same energy, and go be a good recruiter as well.
Let's talk a little bit of the personnel. I was looking at Oklahoma, 20 interceptions on the year last year. Billy Bowman's back at safety. He had 6 of those. And then, you know, no bigger news. I remember seeing the headline a couple weeks ago that, you know, Danny Stutsman announced he's coming back, and a big get for them, and their leading tackler returning. So a lot of guys with experience back on this defense. It
was huge. I mean, Danny Stutsman and Billy Bowman were guys that could have threatened for top 100 picks in the NFL draft in 2024. And I mean, Danny Stutsman just had his 21st birthday. So he's still a physically developing person and player, and had a great season last year. He was good in 2022, but he was just overextended. He played over 900 snaps. I think he was like the number 1 linebacker in snaps played that season. Well, last year they had better linebacker depth and he wasn't overextended. He was able to be fresher throughout games and didn't have, you know, drop-offs in fourth quarters like we saw in 2022. He's a continually developing player, just a playmaker, a guy that gets into the backfield, plays with a ton of energy and a ton of passion. SEC fans are actually going to enjoy watching that guy play because he just plays a style of football that just harkens back to the good old days of college football. You know, just somebody who's hard-nosed. You know, he doesn't wear the nasal strip over the nose, but he's going to be kind of that guy. Billy Bowman, another huge one to get back. Just a playmaker, one of their best athletes at safety. And, he just had a nose for the ball last year. I think he had 6 interception returns for touchdowns, which was ridiculous. It seemed like every time the ball was in the air, he was going to come down with it and then take it back to the house. So it was a big time get back for Oklahoma to get those 2 guys as a part of their defense. They've got talent at linebacker and at safety with some of the younger guys, but you just don't have a lot of experience past Stutsman, past Bowman. So getting them back for your first year in the SEC was huge. And same, again, we talked about defensive tackle just briefly in the first segment, but Dejon Terry coming back, a former Tennessee guy, transferred to Oklahoma, played their nose tackle position, and was huge for them. You go back and watch that goal line stand against Texas in the Red River Showdown, and he was right in the thick of all of that. They had another big one against UCF where they were able to get them stopped on 4 straight downs before a penalty gave him a fresh set of downs. Dejon Terry was a big part of Oklahoma's short yardage defense in 2023. So getting him back was also huge. He might not have been an NFL draft pick, but he's going to be very, very important to Oklahoma's success along the defensive line because you don't have a lot of experience there. As I touched on in the first segment, only one guy in Dejon Terry that played over 100 snaps for you at defensive tackle last year. So it's huge getting Woody Washington back again, another cornerback with a lot of experience. May not have the best production, the best numbers if you're ranking them against cornerbacks, but again, you just didn't have a ton of experience at the position. So getting these veterans back for Oklahoma and for Brent Venables and Zach Alley, it's absolutely huge because it's going to allow you to continue to build that depth and develop the guys that you've got behind them on the depth chart.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember there was a time where Oklahoma was just poaching a lot of Tennessee guys for some reason. It's like you mentioned Dejon Terry. It's like Tennessee fans are like, stop coming after our players, Oklahoma.
Yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah, it's worked out well. Stutsman, by the way, can we get him the neck roll, like just throw back to the 80s? I think that'd be awesome if he could do that. One more on the defense. I remember watching the Red River showdown, whatever we call it now. And they had some key takeaways in that one, but watching them throughout the year, you're going to give up points in the Big 12, but I thought OU overall did a good job of limiting a lot of those high-powered Big 12 offenses. Is that kind of fair to say last year?
Yeah, they were pretty good. I mean, they had moments, against Kansas where, it was a wet game. They were missing Danny Stutsman for part of that game too. The 2 games where they weren't at their best defensively, they were missing Danny Stutsman, and it showed. Because you had a lot of inexperience at linebacker that wasn't able to kind of step into that role. But they were much better. The Texas game, I mean, that was a good Texas offense, and they limited them to, I think Texas had, I want to say they had a special teams or a defensive touchdown. I can't remember exactly, but they held them in check for the most part. They had the big goal line stand. They had another red zone turnover that Billy Bowman forced on a big hit on Xavier Worthy Jatavian Sanders that popped the ball up in the air. And they started the game with an interception by Gentry Williams, who's going to be a name to watch for SEC fans. He's a cornerback that's really, really good, just up and coming dude that dealt with some injuries in 2023, but he's got a lot of promise to him. But yeah, they're a good defense, and they got better and better as the year went on. They got more splashier. They were able to create tackles for loss, get sacks. And if they can improve the pass rush, which has kind of been the weakness, even though they've created some sacks, just being able to rush with 3 or 4 guys has not really been a strength for them. But if they can continue to get better on that front, which I think they will, because they've got some guys in R. Mason Thomas and PJ Adebawari in particular was a 5-star kid coming out of high school. Has got tons of length and tons of athleticism and speed, and is still kind of getting developed at football. And if he can kind of take that step and be a true pass rusher for Oklahoma this year, I think it helps take their defense to another level, and they're going to need to be, because the SEC offenses are no joke either. I mean, there's some really, really good quarterback play, whether it's Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe or, Connor Beck out of Georgia. I mean, this is a really good, and then not even to mention Tennessee and Nico and Josh Heupel and what they got going on. Oklahoma's going to face some really good offenses in 2024. And so if the pass rush is not up to snuff, they're going to struggle.
The Georgia fans would be mad if I didn't correct you and say it's Carson Beck, John. You'll get to know him very well.
Did I say Carson Beck? Did I say Connor Beck?
Yeah, that's all right.
Dang it.
But when he throws for 500 on Oklahoma, you're going to hear from all the Georgia fans.
Hey, over at Sooners Wire, I did rank him number 1 as my SEC quarterback, and I did call him Carson Beck. My apologies. I'm only about like a third of the way through my coffee this morning. My apologies to SEC fans.
Well, by rule, you can't put Quinn Ewers first. It's just you guys can't give the whole Longhorns any respect.
And I've seen too much. Much.
All right, coming up next, what's realistic for this schedule? We'll talk about that with John Williams in our final segment. But first, I want to remind you guys this episode presented to you by our friends over at Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides you access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball, the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. And that includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro sports leagues, college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, whether it's the tournament, NBA, MLB, whatever it is. It's going to be there for you. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust us on this. Go learn more at amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. That's amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, one more segment with our buddy John Williams. And John, as I look at this Oklahoma schedule, it sets up very interesting. I mean, there's some tough games on here, let's be real, but we start to talk realistic expectations. So I'll just kind of pose it this way. When you look at the schedule on the surface, what are the biggest games that jump out to you that make you worried?
Red River rivalry is always one of those games, no matter what the situation is, no matter what the teams look like. Texas could be, the Sam Ehlinger Texas Longhorns, and Oklahoma could have Kyler Murray, and it doesn't matter. It's a coin flip game regardless. At LSU is probably going to be a night game because it just should be. And if it's not, we'll all be disappointed. But that game is going to be ridiculously tough. Even though you lose Jaden Daniels, you lose Malik Neighbors, that's going to be a tough game. Playing in Oxford at Ole Miss, a team that continues to get better under Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart. I mean, that's going to be a really, really tough matchup as well. That first one against Tennessee, even though they've got quarterback turnover as well, Josh Heupel is going to be coming in looking to prove a point. I know, there's this thought that maybe there's not any tension between Heupel and the program from him being released of his contract or let go back at the end of his tenure with the Sooners. But I'm sure he's going to have something he's going to want to prove with his Volunteers. And Nico's a good quarterback as well in his own right. And that's going to be a really, really talented program. Even though Auburn may not be someone that is going to be in SEC contention, they just took Alabama, to the brink this past year. You got to go to Jordan-Hare Stadium. You got to play in that environment. That's going to be tough. South Carolina, I think all of the games could be difficult in their own way. Lenora Sellers in South Carolina, Lenora Sellers is a very talented player. He just hasn't gotten a chance to be on the field just yet. But the games that worry me the most, obviously Texas, LSU, Alabama coming to town, that Alabama game is going to have everybody hype in Norman. Even though there's no Nick Saban, still getting Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe, guys that were in the college football playoff a year ago. That's going to create a ton of buzz for that matchup. And I'm excited for that one. I think the most, even though there's still no Nick Saban, I think it's still going to be just an exciting atmosphere to have the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Oklahoma Sooners on the field together for the first time in more than 20 years in Norman. So that's really, really exciting. But man, there's a ton of great games. The SEC did Oklahoma no favors in this one, except for just not adding Georgia to the pylon. But I don't think any Oklahoma fan was under any illusion that any schedule was going to be quote unquote easy. It was all going to be tough. Even that game where you go to Missouri and you play in Columbia later in the season, that's going to be a tough matchup. Even though we have dominated Missouri in the history of the matchup, they've got some talent. Brady Cook and Luther Burden, that is one of the best quarterback wide receiver combos in the nation. And so it's going to be a challenge. I think every single week is going to be a challenge in the SEC, but that's also what Oklahoma was wanting to get into. Getting into the SEC is having week on week on week of marquee matchups throughout the schedule. So it's exciting. Oklahoma fans are excited for the challenge. We're under no illusion that we're going to come in and dominate the SEC and be number one right away. If that happens, hey man, we'll all be just as surprised as anybody. But I do think that Oklahoma can come in and be very, very competitive in year one.
I'm glad you're realistic, because there's some folks over in Austin who maybe aren't realistic about the adjustment to the SEC, but
yeah,
we'll talk more about them down the road. I feel like I got to hold your hand and take you on the SEC journey a little bit for Auburn Stadium. They pronounce it Jordan-Hare Stadium. Shug Jordan is how they pronounce it. Again, don't ask me why. There are things that are just mysteries of life, but we'll teach you the pronunciations of some of the weird things across the SEC. Like LSU's baseball stadium. So it looks like Alex Box. They pronounce it Alec Box Stadium. So anyway, there's weird things. So we're just going to get you caught up as you come along on this SEC journey with us. One thing more for you. You mentioned that Missouri trip. Like, what's so weird is any other year in the SEC, I would look at trips to Missouri and trips to Ole Miss as tough, but maybe not. But like both those teams coming off of double-digit win seasons, like the bar has raised for Lane Kiffin and Eli Drinkwitz. So it's like on paper you go, okay, road trips to Auburn, Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, we can weather the storm. But like it just so happens those are going to be even more challenging this season than they would have been any other year.
Yeah, and you can never know what's going to happen year to year. There's always some teams that surprise you with either how good they are or with maybe not being as good as what you thought they'd be. But yeah, it's just one of those funky years where Oklahoma ends up with 5, ranked teams from the SEC on the schedule and several of those in the top 10. And so, yeah, again, no illusion that it's going to be easy or that there's going to be any, cakewalk games. I think every single week is going to be a bit of a challenge. But I think Oklahoma is going to be up to the challenge in a lot of ways. I think they're going to be a team that's just as good and they're going to be a threat for everybody else. While I'd sit here and talk about, okay, Ole Miss going to Oxford is going to be tough for Oklahoma. Well, Ole Miss welcoming Oklahoma is going to be tough for them as well. So it's going to be give and take both ways, but it's going to create a lot of fantastic matchups. I think Oklahoma can go in and win a lot of these games. I mean, I think they could go in and beat LSU in Baton Rouge, in Death Valley. I think they can go in and win that game. I think they could go and win potentially all the games on their schedule. Now, will they win all the games on their schedule? I don't know, but I think that they have the talent and things are coming together for them, and they will come together along the offensive line, that they're going to be a very, very competitive team in 2024.
He is John Williams, host of Locked On Sooners. John, thanks so much for the time, man. We'll talk to you again real soon, all right?
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I'm so excited to be a part of the SEC.
That's your Oklahoma spring preview. Hey, mark your calendar for the Locked On Basketball bracket breakdown show happening this coming Monday. It's March 18th at 7 a.m. Eastern. Our experts, Andy Patton, Isaac Shade, they're going to break down their brackets, discuss everything you need to know. Find the Locked On Bracket Breakdown this Monday on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Go check out John and the folks at Locked On Sooners. Make them your second listen and see what they got going on. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We will talk to you guys tomorrow.